Hi there, this is Andrew Brody with Yokogawa's Network Solutions Group, and today I'd like to talk to you about the DACWorks product, MXLogger, that allows you to record up to 1,200 channels of data from up to 20 individual MX100 units in Yokogawa's DAC master data acquisition line. What you're looking at now is essentially, if you Google Yokogawa and MXLogger, you'll get taken to this page here, and it talks a little bit about all the features and capabilities of the MX100 and MXLogger software. But essentially, where MXLogger comes in is the MX100 ships with a piece of software called MX Standard, which is good for monitoring one unit. If you'd like to monitor more than one unit, or perhaps add a couple extra features like event actions where you can automatically FTP files or do emails, then this is where you'd move to MXLogger. Main reason to go to it is that you can get multiple units where MX Standard will only get one unit. MX Standard comes with the MX100. MXLogger is an additional purchase. So if we move right into the MXLogger, start all programs, Yokogawa DACWorks, MXLogger, Logger, that's where you'd see it on your system. I've already got it up and running here, so let's take a look. Like most of our software, you start with the right, move to the left, and I'm going to give you a very quick presentation here on MXLogger to kind of show you how you'd quickly configure a system, get it up and running, and I'm not going to go into all the details because I'm going to try and keep this short. And essentially, moving from right to left, you start with System, and you'll go here under Configuration. If you're on a network that happens to allow you to search for your MX100 systems, you could hit search here and they'll show up, and then you can essentially drag and drop them into your system here. In my case, my network doesn't allow me to do those searches, so what I can do is I can just click add here, and then once I go add, it's going to ask me for an IP address for a unit. Okay, so I'm going to stop recording on my existing system to kind of show you what that looks like. So if I go ahead and I'm also going to stop monitoring, I click add here. See how you'll get to put in another unit here, and that's where you'd go ahead and put in the IP address. You'd go ahead and get configuration, and it's going to kind of suck in what you already have. So if I do that from scratch here, I go 192.168.1.203, and I go get configuration. See how it went and sucked it all in there? Okay, so that's how you get that going. Measurement groups, you essentially can take any of your input modules and drag them into one of three measurement groups. So I'm just going to drag all these guys into the first measurement group. Alright, and then you'll go to the next line here, channel. Okay, then you can kind of pick what channels you're looking to see. So in this case, I've decided to look at and record channels 1 and 2. I also have math channels here, and I put in one simple math channel, and you can scroll from left to right. So I'm going monitor channel 1, which refers to the first channel here, a type T thermocouple, plus an offset. An offset is just the name of a constant I have over here. On my measurement channels, you can see if you want to set up something simple, like I've got a thermocouple, I just go ahead, record monitor, I pick the type of input I want. In this case, I want a thermocouple, type T. I'll say my upper and lower range that I'm looking at. I'm going to say 60 to 90 degrees, so this will just help bracket my trend on the screen. Then I can do other stuff here, like I can give it a name, give it a comment. If I want, I can put in a filter to help, like, say, smooth out stuff. Okay, kind of like a bit of a, let's say, a rolling average, 5, 10, 40 type samples. Okay, I can put in an alarm, so I can say, like, you know, for example, 85, and that's a high alarm. Okay, and I put in a low alarm there of 65. If I was doing a 4 to 20 milliamp signal or a 1 to 5 volt signal, I'd do something like volts. I'd pick the 6 volt range, or preferably the 6 volt HQ range. This just gives you a little more resolution, an extra decimal place of resolution. And then essentially I'd just go here, and I'd go 1 volt, 5 volts. I'd scroll over a little bit here. I'd go ahead and use scaling, and then essentially I'd go something like, say, 0 to 100. So when I get 1 volt, it's 0. When I get 5 volts, it's 100. Okay. And if this was a 4 to 20 milliamp signal, I'd still say 1 to 5 volts here. The only difference is on the MX data input card, I'd put a 250 ohm precision resistor across the plus and minus. And through Ohm's law, that's going to convert 4 to 20 milliamps, so 4 times 250 ohms equals 1, or 1000 if you're like talking millivolts. And the same thing for 20 milliamps. 20 milliamps times 250 ohms is going to equal to 5,000 millivolts, or 5 volts. So that's kind of the quick there on how to set that up. And you can of course see over here we've got stuff like alarms and so on where we could also set that up, or if you just happen to scroll over here you can do that. Okay, so just by clicking right here you can get this to light up and make changes over here if you want on a channel by channel basis. Okay, next we go to acquisition. We can say how fast we want to monitor stuff. We can also say what ratio we want to record at. So this is measuring every 100 milliseconds, and with a 1:1 ratio, that would give me a recording every 100 milliseconds. If I go in here and say 10, then that's going to give me a recording every 1 second. So every 10 100 millisecond scans, I'm going to record once. So essentially I'm recording every second. And over here it kind of shows you I'm recording every second, and I'm recording 2 channels. Okay, and let's see, what else do we have here? We got various ways of starting and stopping recording. Okay, just by hitting start record, or you can start at a fixed time, you can do an interval, you can do math. So it's got a lot more features than the MX standard in terms of starting and stopping recording. Okay, this is where the data file is going to be written. That's going to be the start of the name, data. I could change that to something else if I want. Okay, I can essentially keep it all in one data file. I can divide it on a fixed period. I can divide it on like a daily, weekly kind of interval. I can add a comment to the file. I can say how many files I want to keep. So if I'm just constantly logging and creating new files, I could say, hey, only keep the 20 newest files. Alright, next we go over to the Run tab here, and this is where I can kind of monitor. So I've gone ahead, started recording, so it's talking a little bit here. Shows me what unit I'm doing here. If I had multiple units, they'd all show up here. Just like under System, if I go to Configuration, if I had multiple units, they'd all show up here. Alright, so I go back to Run here. See, I've got 1 unit. I see how much space I got free for logging here. Okay, I see the names of the files. Now if I go up here and hit the trend monitor, I can start monitoring the trend. I can go over here and change the grid or the background. I can do stuff like stack. In this case I only have kind of 1 trend, so I can't really see the stacking effect, but I could zoom in, zoom out. If you look down here you can see your zoom level. Alright, and you know, if I don't want to see that view, I can close out that. I can go and say maybe take a look at it digitally. Okay, if I want to see it by channel number instead of tag name, I can click there. If I want to see it by comment, I can see it there. Alright, if I want to set up what's being displayed in terms of all the tags that I'm currently looking at, I can go in here, and these are all my groups. And you can see I can have quite a few groups, up to 50 groups. Alright, so I'm just looking at the first group here. It's the only group I have set up. I've given it a name. I've picked the tags that I want. Okay, and since I'm on tag comment, you know, it's kind of showing me the tags by their comment here. Alright, if I cancel out of here and I switch over to say channel number or tag name, and I go view general display settings, then when I click on this here, I'll see it by the appropriate. So channel, tag number, tag comment. Okay. Alright, and once again I can go in here, set different mins and maxes for my scale. This isn't going to affect the measurement, it's just going to affect how much I see on the screen here. I can go 60 to 90 there, hit apply, hit OK. Alright, then I can close out that view. I can go and take a look at it kind of in a view like that. I can close out that guy if I want. I can go back to my trend. There's my trends. Okay. Other stuff I can do while I'm in here. Stop monitoring, start recording. So I'm now recording. If I manually want to kind of create a new file, I can just go save, and that will take everything that I've currently got and write it off to a file so that I can go ahead and open up the data viewer over here. I can go file, open, and then usually the one that's got the highest increment here, like 001, that's the latest data file. Synchronizing, if I've got a bunch of files that are continuously linked together, this will allow me to do that. I don't think I really have that, but here we go. I can take a look at it there, and just like on the real-time viewer, you can kind of change the background colors, change the grid intensity, view it by different stuff here. I can go up here, view it in kind of like a spreadsheet form. Little red bars here indicate that it was an alarm. Okay, if I go back here, I can go here and drop this kind of control cursor on here, and essentially by dragging and dropping, I essentially left click, then right click and let go. I can set cursors. If I only want to set one cursor on the screen, I'll just click once without moving, and then I can kind of see the value at that specific point. But if I drag and drop, then I can see the difference between the values. Okay. So let's close out the data viewer there. And next thing I'm going to do is alarm sound. I can essentially turn that on if alarm comes in, so I can hear the alarm sound. Okay. I've also got display alarm acknowledgements. I can insert marks, which are essentially kind of little text comments into a trend while it's running. I could reset the math. Events, basically on an alarm I can do certain things. Data file, communication, these are all types of things I can do. Record, stop, record, stop. So these are all the types of events I could have, and here's under configuration the things that I can do. Okay, so on certain alarms I could do stuff. I can essentially then FTP files. This is where I set up the FTP server. I could do emails. I could do output a file if I want. And over here on start record, here's all the things. On stop record, here's all the things I could have it do. Okay, so those are events that you can essentially trigger on various conditions like alarms, data files, communication, start recording, and stop recording. So let's cancel out of that. And not too much else there. That's the basics on it. If you've got an older system, you can also use MXLogger as a DDE server to serve up that stuff. You can also use this just to kind of monitor who it's serving stuff up to. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up MXLogger.